Hello and welcome to the 2020 Chain video update. You're here with me, Fola. My colleagues are Had, Juan, Andre, Tomasz. Unfortunately, Issa and Dragan couldn't join us today, but we've got a lot of updates for you this month, and hopefully we can get through all of your interesting Q&A questions together as well. All right, so firstly and foremostly, I'm going to send it over to Tomasz to give his updates.
So thank you and hello everyone. This month I've improved TML's REPL interface for debugging capabilities. It means we can now debug TML programs step by step and display TML's internals. If anyone wants to create TML programs, it can help to see what is going on each step of PFP logic. And recently, I've added an ability to see just the changes the program made in the database, and I'm adding some of the debugging features into the bot. These changes will be published very soon. And I'm also working on adding the information about the database changes into the database, so user can reason about the changes made in previous steps of the program from the program itself. Or we can use this for debugging. For example, setting up the breakpoints depending on some change in the database. So that's all for this month from me.
Awesome, very good. I am now going to put it over to Andre, and your mic's muted just in case you didn't see.
Hello, everyone. This month was challenging because I showed you the website that you was able to play with. I've got some errors from you. I fixed them, but then I move next, and I want to show you this. Okay, so first of all, let's start a sample discussion. This will be simple, yes. I like cats, of course. I added trees, so you can now reply to other people's replies. I like cats too, for example, yeah? Yes, this is nice. You can fold it, unfold it, it's sorting. Someone can say, I like dogs, yes. This is nice. Took me a while to make it, but it works. Now, look at this. We now have the whole tree of upper classes with counters of mentions of every item we have on a discussion. So we can group and fetch from there any upper classes to understand what this discussion is all about. For example, let me add, I like ice cream, yeah? Ice cream, yeah. And we got the ice cream here on a separate tree. You see, and only one mention, but physical entity mentioned 5 times because it's cat, dog, and ice cream, all physical entities. Now we'll make it even more challenging. I love cheeses. Yeah. Look at this. We got a Jesus here, who is a son, a prophet, a Jew, yeah, a person, a God. You see? And this tree is available for every discussion without any results from it. I can show in a separate window later, like most mentioned entity or maybe some sentiment analysis I have. But also I have this tree for all discussions, common tree, and we can see what people are talking about in all discussions on the platform. So you will be able to play with it right away, add your opinions, see that beautiful, beautiful tree with mentions and counters, and understand where are we going with the alpha client for as a discussion platform. So that's pretty much it.
And over to Juan for his updates.
So hi everybody. So this month I kept working on the arithmetic support. I was approaching the over BDD's multiplication problem as we mentioned in our last talk. And so this month I moved forward on this problem. It turned out to be harder than expected. But we are closing the month with an initial prototype of a working solution that we expect that it may have some improvements over a direct computation of such problem. I will share with you few slides, actually 3, to help in the revision of these concepts. This is still raw material, so please don't expect much precisions in this regard. But it's a matter of, it's a way to start sharing with you the kind of problem that we are dealing with. So basically, as I commented, we want to compute the pairwise product of 2 sets, in this case A and B, to obtain a set as C. In the bottom of this slide, we have a convenient way to model the sets A or B. In this case, this is a binary representation where X takes the place as don't care, so it can be 0 and 1. So this is in order to show the next, or to represent the coming example. Moving away from the very simple example, assume that we now want to deal with large integers, could be 1000 bits, where each set is actually containing 2 to the 32 elements, that's 4 giga elements. And we want to compute the pairwise product of those 2 sets. A direct approach would be to take each element and multiply by each other element of the other set. That's the direct approach, with a complexity which could be described formally as in the order of the cardinality of A times the cardinality of B. This when the sets involve so many elements, this solution may face really a bottleneck in terms of execution time. So with what this is below here is what how we may represent BDD sets, or excuse me, integer sets of 1000 bits composed of 4 giga elements. Is worth mentioning that the representation of those sets has 32x in the bit stream representation, meaning that we are the cardinality of sets A and B has such amount of elements. So what we have we worked it out during this month, it's an algorithm or procedure to compute these pairwise products, trying to move away from the number of elements times number of elements in B complexity by taking advantage of the BDD data structure, and actually, instead of expanding all possible solutions, like merging the products as we are computing them. And of course, the worst case, we have here an initial complexity metric for this algorithm. Of the worst case would be still where we get cardinality of A times cardinality of B. But for many other cases where the numbers inside A and inside B allow us to merge such multiplication process, we may get reduced number of elements. We're assuming, or still is not confirmed, that we may get some lower bound proportional to the number of consecutive x in the bit stream B in particular. So this is very preliminarily complexity metric. But if we assume that we are dealing with a particular example, for the direct approach, we may get this number of multiplication. We will require this number of multiplications, where with our new procedure, we may reach to lower the number of multiplications in that way. Again, this is a working prototype. The complexity metrics measurements are still under development, but this has been mainly the focus during this month, to get the algorithm coded and implemented, and to start running tests with it and analyze its behavior. So that's all by now.
Okay, so from my side of things, I'm going to discuss the legal work, some of the exchanges. I know you guys have a lot of questions about that. Some hiring that we've been doing as well, and the white paper, and some design elements that we've been looking at as well. So from a legal perspective, I did mention that we've done a huge bulk of the work. This enables us to get onto European exchanges. Not all of them. We still have a couple more requirements to have out there, such as our socials to be in the right kind of to look right from a community perspective as well. We need to look right. So exchanges really want to make sure that they're going to do well with our token. So we have to also be able to prove that to them. So the work that I've been doing this past month, for the past couple of weeks, I've been speaking to a lot of exchanges, doing a lot of research, and I'm really seeing what exchanges are going to be most valuable for us as a community. We've had a couple of issues with guys like ChowX, and over the past couple of months, we want to make sure that each exchange that we use from now on is actually going to be valuable to us. It's actually going to bring new people to the token, and actually be something that we can use for a very long period of time, as opposed to just having another exchange. So the when exchange is really a case of what valuable exchanges can we get onto now, and how do we get on there? So I know you guys have been mentioning BitchWeb quite a lot. That's something, a company that we are talking with. And just to give you a bit of an insight, so most of these exchanges have both a international, which is sort of like a European and sort of global facing side to them, and then also a US exchange as well. So you'll see BitchWeb US and you'll see BitchWeb International. And a lot of exchanges in the US side also have in the EU side. So right now we're predominantly focusing on the EU side. And that's sort of where the legal work was done, which it helps us a lot. It helps us a lot, and I can't express to you how big this hurdle is. It's been really useful. So I've outlined a list of exchanges that we're going to go for over the next couple of months and this year, and we have to do it bit by bit as we start to release more parts of the product. We do more marketing and enable us to kind of pass certain requirements that they have. But the sort of lowest hanging fruit are the kind of exchanges that you guys have been mentioning in the Telegram channels right now. So I'll work on that. In terms of hiring, so we did mention that we wanted to bring on Umar. So Umar will be back next month, and hopefully we can get him on board during next month for full time. I'm also working on an R&D manager, amongst other things here and there. But next month as well, we should have this R&D manager. I've actually just got off the phone to a prospective, a really, really good guy for that role as well, which will help us be more efficient internally as well. So all of these things, you know, sometimes are very kind of structural. So in terms of external side of things as well, we're also going to be redesigning our website. We have a really good web designer for that. We have to figure out a couple of things in terms of how we want to, you know, handle the branding and you know, make ourselves look a bit more presentable, because now we're actually starting to release the product. We need to start, you know, raising how we look as well. So that's also in progress at the moment as well. So you know, hopefully we can start to show you guys something there as well. And then we also have the white paper. Now I have an estimation of time that we've been given. But you know, there's always going to be some changes here and there to, you know, to what we put out. So I guess we could probably expect that in sort of mid-March. And it's again, it's looking very, very good. But that's you know, it's on its way. You know, we've been reading the drafts. I had been, you know, working extremely hard with the person writing the white paper. But yeah, that's it for now from my side of things. You know, hopefully I can give you guys some updates on the hiring, and you know, we can increase our efficiency and productivity a lot next month as well. But yeah, that's for me. And over to Ahad.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. This month, Dragan continued working on this difficult, fundamental, and delicate change of making the bit ordering in the BDDs to make them dynamic. As you heard, we had such a nice progress. Last time we announced that we have on Tomasz board the consensus detection working, the agreement detection, and now, as you saw, Andre is going towards, we can already see an opinion map extracted from a discussion. And as you hear, we also, Tomasz and Andre also made progress in the usability side of things. As Andre showed you, the English to TML initial support, and Tomasz on the more technical sides to enhance the REPL, read, eval, print loop that he already wrote. And indeed, in this month, after by the bot, TML got played much more by the community. We got to experience it much more, to see bugs, to see comments, to discuss TML with people, and this is of course something that I was also involved at this month. As Fola said, also I spent some effort in trying to push the white paper, which is yet another hard task that it's waiting for years to be finished, because it is indeed so hard, but we will make it this time. For this, we have a highly talented guy, a professor of engineering that took this mission. In such a busy month, I didn't finish, unfortunately, the full support of second order logic, but I made some progress with some experiments and on the aspect of taking the main ability that I can adapt from the literature, which is about solving Boolean equations, and to fill this gap from there to full second order logic. I was also considering you can think of it as three things at a time. It's in one aspect, it is a way to give more depth to BDDs. BDDs represent shallow data, a set of bits of strings, but a set of string of bits. But what if the bits are not in a string, but in some more higher dimensional form, like a tree? And so this will be one aspect of something that I will be working on. The second aspect of the very same thing is by considering how a generic solver would be like. And you know how a generic solver, a logical solver would be like. It is about forward propagation or back propagation based on unification of consequences with premises. Never mind. But also, but it turns out that such a generic solver for a very, very generic theory, which is simply the foundation of mathematics, set theory, axiomatic set theory upon its various formalisms, classical formalisms, is written in this way that I refer to above. Well, everything in set theory you can define as the empty set, and things that and sets and the membership relation, which is a binary relation between sets. By that, combining a suitable representation of the data in a form which is one step beyond BDDs, we can get a very powerful solver for virtually any theory, including all theories that we will want to implement, especially the decidable theories that we are interested at. We will be to implement using such an ability. So that's another thing that I was considering this month. Another thing is this is time for us to work on Agoras also. We were working so far only on Tau, and we can certainly start to work on certain features of Agoras. So I was working on designing how the Agoras department, the Agoras team will look like, and we will need to start creating the Agoras team and start working on Agoras. Along that, I also came with a major improvement of one of Agoras aspects, somehow a theoretical breakthrough, but I don't want to speak about it publicly. And that's all for this month. Thank you very much.
All right, excellent. Okay, well, we have the Q&A questions coming next, so please stay tuned. Thank you very much. All right, on to the Q&A. And this question is from Alan. And he asks, on TML's ability to know all consequences of code even before running it, is this feature currently functioning and observable in TML?
Yes, well, the ability to take code by some definition that we will say right away, and to ask if it meets certain consequences, certain requirements, this is something that in principle can be done in TML as it is right now. For example, we can, in TML as it is right now, it is possible to define a Turing machine of finite tape, finite memory, unlike the traditional Turing machine that has infinite tape. And a Turing machine, you know, we simply mean a computer program. And you can write a TML program that simulates it, and in particular can answer all relevant questions. An ability that we currently don't have and we will have once we finish the support of second order logic, is to synthesize code from requirements. Indeed, I didn't make clear what I mean by code. Let me say it again in a clearer way. By this, we refer to some abstraction of a transition system, a system that transits from a given step from given state to another state, given some input from the environment. Such system may or may not have memory. In its full generality, we are speaking of Turing machines or equivalent. So right now, indeed, you can express transition tables in TML and reason over them, and this is equivalent to reasoning over programs. Of course, it is not so convenient. In TML, we need extra features, how to make this all much more convenient, that you could actually take something that we more or less see as code and reason over it the way we actually want to do. So to sum it up, we have those abilities. We don't have the abilities of synthesizing code yet, but we will have it soon. Some work need to be done in order to make it really usable.
All right, and another question from Alan, and he asks, will TML support numbers other than just integers and still maintain all three laws of laws?
Yes. In fact, you don't need beyond this. In principle, you can take TML support for numbers as it is right now, and look at these numbers, for example, as fractions. You can place the decimal dot anywhere you like. You can look at them as rational numbers, take pair of integers, and consider the quotients between them, and to define the corresponding arithmetic operations to indeed correctly do arithmetic over fractions in decimal form or in rational number form. It is certainly easy to program it in TML. So already in TML right now, you can do such things. Much moreover, you could even do, which is something that I was also dealing with this month, you could even introduce infinitesimals and infinities. I spent quite some time this month thinking about it. I didn't speak about it beforehand. And the reason is that some very simple to state physical facts, we want to be able to formalize them even in TML. For example, in thermodynamics, we have the heat equation. The heat equation tells us that the rate of change in space, the rate of change in time of the rate of change in space of the temperature is proportional to the rate of change of the rate of change of the rate of change of the temperature with respect to space. We humanity know to make sense of such things only using differential equations. So just very simple physical statements that things are proportional to each other, or certain rates of changes are proportional to each other. To make them precise, you will need the whole machinery, like defining the real numbers, defining limits, as if you studied calculus, then you already know. And this is will require very significant logical operations just to calculate a limit. In the standard epsilon delta definitions, you have for all exist for all epsilon greater than 0 exist delta greater than 0, such that for all x, etc. But with infinitesimals, under a setting called non-standard analysis, that's a terrible name for a wonderful field called non-standard analysis, which deals with enhancing the number line with infinitesimals and infinities, like the hyperreal numbers, the surreal numbers. And by that, we can calculate limits by simply adding another universe element. We will not need this quantifier alternation of for all exist for all. Anyway, so much to say about it. What I want to say is, in TML, yes, we will be able to represent very large families of numbers. But of course, not all of them. We will be able only to give finite representations of them. For example, yes, we can represent real numbers, but only the first n digits of them, including infinitesimals and infinities. We will be able to do as well. That's all for this question.
Is TML right now coded in C++ or TML itself? If it's in C++, when can we expect it to be coded in TML?
TML is right now in C++. We don't work right now on writing TML using TML, but we postponed it for a later stage, and that's for two reasons. Reason number one, that it is indeed not vital for achieving our goals to have this such a self-interpreter. We can even do well with a semi-self-interpreter, call it so. And in fact, we don't need it at all. It is an important theoretical aspect that TML should fulfill, but not having it doesn't stop us by any means. The second reason is that it will be easier to do so once TML gets more developed and has much more features, especially, of course, second-order logic, but not only. The more TML will grow, the easier it will be to do other things, especially things as complex as a self-interpreter.
And we have another question from Redneve, and they ask, when can we expect documentation on how to learn to code in TML?
Yeah, there is some documentation on GitHub. I by no means claim that it is a good documentation. It will be updated soon with some things that changed or added recently. We will definitely, TML doesn't have a release yet. It's still all pre-release. Once we will have a release, it will of course has to be shipped. It will of course be shipped with the proper documentation.
Okay, and this question is from Brad, and he asks, I have read the Tau chain and Agoras tokens are not in a full correlation with one another. When will the development start for the aspect which will link the value for Agoras to Tau chain? Also, in which ways would Agoras tokens make for a valuable asset to have and therefore to own?
Yes, well, as I spoke beforehand, indeed, we already started off taking seriously the initiation of the Agoras development and to move forward. Completely independent of your question. In fact, I just see it right now, but we spoke about it beforehand.
And we have a question from Forrest, and Forrest asks, if you were to formulate a question to which you get an answer back that you could relate back to the person as being the exact reason he'd need of Tau chain, what would that question be?
Yeah, that's a very good question. What would be the exact reason that someone will be need to use of Tau chain? Well, I don't know. I don't know the exact answer. I don't know the exact reason. I don't know. I need to think about it.
The community member says, this is for Andre, can we have a personal bot on Telegram instead of one shared with everyone?
So about Telegram, Tomasz created a great bot that is available on IRC. It's Mr. Tau, and now you can PM to Mr. Tau to have your own discussion with it via Telegram. If you message IDNI TML bot that is available on our dev channel, you PM to that bot, and it will forward all messages to Mr. Tau over IRC, and you will all be able to play with it without interrupting anyone on the main channel. Yeah.
And we have a question for Tomasz. And that question is, what functionalities or performance do we gain, if any, by coding the IRC bot directly in TML instead of another language?
Okay. By coding the bot using just TML, we gain an ability to update the bot by TML. It means users of the bot will be able to change the bot by speaking with the bot. This is a required feature of Alpha, which we need to be amendable by its users. So bot is basically a core component of Alpha network, and Alpha will be all written in TML.
And we have a question from Draghi, and they say, when will you consider migrating the token from Omni to an ERC20 or a native token? Native chain. The issue of lack of exchanges has repeatedly hit the project, not least due to the token being based on an antiquated Omni standard. Okay. All right, I can answer this one. So as it relates to the exchanges, the fact that we're an Omni token has never affected us in terms of being listed on an exchange. It's purely based on the regulations and requirements that we need to get onto the exchanges. So that no exchange that we've had so far or that we've wanted to get on has ever said, hey, we don't list Omni tokens, and especially the exchanges that we want to get on, they haven't required us to be an ERC20 token at all. So just to kind of get that out of the way, it's purely based on us providing the meeting the requirements that they ask us to meet. And being an Omni token is not one of those things. If you can imagine that Tether is an Omni token, it's based on the Omni standard. And a lot of exchanges use Tether. So just to give a bit of a view of how many exchanges use Tether and how important Tether is to the crypto exchanges. Most exchanges use them. So there's very little requirement for us to be an ERC20. But that said, we are working on beginning the steps to work on our own native chain now. And this question is from Redneve, and they ask, can the community expect to have a chance to buy Agoras on a Western exchange before next major releases, which may occur soon? We are working on the exchanges at the moment. Obviously, as it's a bit of a catch-22, because as we release, some of these exchanges want to see us release more products and see us, I guess, a bit further down the line in terms of our, what's released to the community and what the community even looks like as a whole. So it's a bit of a catch-22 there. So some exchanges will be able to access right now, and that's those are the exchanges that we're working on. Like BitchWeb, for example, and some exchanges will have to come as we release anyway, because that's just how their requirements work. So yes, I do expect that you guys will have an opportunity to purchase the Agoras tokens on Western exchanges. Now we've outlined again we've outlined a number of exchanges. You can call them the valuable exchanges in the crypto market. I did mention before that there's just no point us getting exchanges without them being really valuable to us as a whole. As you guys know and have experienced, that not all exchanges are built equally, and you know, even a lot of the exchanges that are prominent aren't actually that good through our research. So we're not just doing that because we want to hold back, but it's, you know, we've done a lot of research into, you know, what exchanges are really real or not. You know, it's quite a big thing in the crypto market that a lot of exchanges aren't. They look good, but in terms of, you know, bringing value to a project, not all exchanges can actually do that. So we're working on these types of exchanges at the moment. So yeah, just to reiterate, there'll be a few exchanges that we'll be able to access sooner, and as we release, more exchanges will come. And this question is a question from Forrest, who always sends in questions. I'm very happy to answer all these questions. In order for the community and the project to be given leeway in effectively drafting new members and token holders, are there any exchange listings in the works? And if we are first and foremost to handle the legal and technical difficulties before you can do so, what is the status percentage-wise on finishing and implementing those? And is it possible to get a time indication? Now, the exchanges, the process isn't just an exchange. I mean, there's a lot of, I guess, call it hocus pocus work, for lack of a better term, little hoops to jump through. For example, translating a document from one language to another language might take a couple of weeks. Getting certain legal documents translated, these types of things kind of give us the hold up. So certain things we already have, but unfortunately we get held back by, you know, certain things that we certain requirements. So you know, yes, exchange listings are absolutely in the works. It's something I'm working on right now. It could be the end of next month that we start to see exchange. It could be the end of March we start to see exchange. But I'd say it's closer than it's much closer than you think. It's just a case of getting our ducks in a row and just making sure that, you know, all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed for the exchanges. And as I mentioned before in previous questions, that you know, we do need to have some of the product available for some of these exchanges. And again, also that, you know, there's a list of exchanges that are actually useful. You know, I'm sure if you guys went and did your due diligence, you'll actually see that there are, you know, there's only around 20 or so exchanges that can really bring any value to a community, and there are hundreds of exchanges on the planet. You know, and even some of the big boys, some of the big exchanges that, well, at least exchanges that look big, really aren't that big when you look at the volume and look at the real volume and look what is really going on. So possible time indication, I would say within 1 to 2 months. You know, all things being comfortable, within 1 to 2 months, we can expect to see an exchange or two. Another question from Forrest, and he asks, regarding the amounts of Agoras that haven't been withdrawn from exchanges that delisted us, for example, BitchWeb and OpenLedger, is it possible for an eventual active push to have these opened again and redistributed towards the initial owners, or is that out of our hands? Good question. So with BitchWeb, I've spoken to BitchWeb personally, and the situation with BitchWeb is that they are going to hold the tokens, and once we relist with BitchWeb, once we provide the documentation and they accept everything that we have provided, The wallets will be reopened to the original owners. So essentially, you can just call them frozen for lack of a better term in Bittrex' case. As it relates to Open Ledger and other exchanges, some exchanges are more challenging than others. For example, ChowX was a really difficult exchange. I know some people lost out on ChowX and had issues. Unfortunately, some exchanges we just don't have contact with. Some exchanges just the token without our without our input. Some exchanges just have difficulties and they're just not the best exchanges in the end. And the relationship changes. It's something that we're 100% going to look into. You guys are our community members, and it's we've had a lot of discussions in terms of how to handle this. We will certainly look into it. If there's, without question, this isn't something that we are going to just let go. In terms of time frame when we're going to be able to do that, we need a little bit more time on our end to actually, be able to, get our ducks in a row to be able to, make this push to get things back to their rightful owners. We'll certainly look into it. So for sure, that's an absolute yes. How much we can do there, and the type of user groups that are in place. Again, it's something that we have to dive into in the future. Just to add a little more to Forrest's question, he also asked, do those Agoras tokens belonging to the exchanges, do the Agoras tokens held on exchange belong to the exchanges, or do they have an obligation to delete them or get rid of them? Now, that's on a case-by-case basis. Certain exchanges do certain things, and I just want to also add here that it's really important that you guys protect yourselves. Sometimes, in the case of, like, for example, ChowX, we're in a very similar position to you, where we don't really get to have much communication with the exchange. The exchange just decides to bail. There's not much that anyone can do, including us. Because if someone doesn't respond, then there's not much anyone can do. Maybe there'll be some future case against these exchanges once, I guess a couple of companies come together. But such is life in the cryptocurrency world, and it really does require you guys to be diligent in terms of how you hold your tokens, protecting yourselves. Please withdraw. Please do not hold tokens on exchange. We do not hold tokens on exchange. I've personally never held any tokens on exchange throughout my entire crypto holding career. So please do not do the same. Be very careful, because issues happen all the time with exchanges. It's very commonplace, and it's very important that you become the person that you trust. I mean, you can decide, if you hold your tokens, just how secure it can be, as opposed to an exchange, where you don't know the internal operations of how they run. And to a certain degree, neither do we. As it comes to going back and taking a look at some of the tokens held in these exchanges, if they still have them or not, and what can be done about that, we have to treat that on a case-by-case basis. I'm sure that some exchanges will be more challenging than others, and we have to look at the user agreements that you guys signed up with. I'm sure that the user agreements change over time as well. So it's going to take a lot of effort, but it's something that we are 100% looking into. not right now, but it's something that we'll be looking into a little bit further down the line in the future as well. Another exchange question from Jean-Michael Basquiat. The products must be the first point of the schedule. I agree. But if we could get into a decent exchange, this could bring us attention and would help spread the word. Absolutely agree. So when the product is already finished, we will have as many people waiting for using it. And this will allow Tau to grow better and stronger, I think. Keep on working, team. Well, that's not much of a question, but I absolutely agree. Firstly, for us, one of the reasons why we've been a little bit quiet on the whole exchange front is because we did a lot of exchange research. We have people internally working for us who, again, you don't see the entire team all the time, but we have people working internally for us doing, certain amounts of research and reaching out to exchanges and having the communications and conversations with the exchanges in order to get a good picture of, who's able to do what value they can bring to our token, what that distribution looks like and the demographics look like for each exchange. This 100% agree. It's now come down to a number of exchanges. I'm not gonna put it out there right now, but we do have a target list, and it makes sense for us to really go for important exchanges as opposed to just exchanges now. And again, with things like the white paper coming, again, we're working on things like the rebranding and the redesign of the website. Again, product releases from Andre. All really good things which will help us list on better exchanges. So it's partially a catch-22 in terms of what's required legally and what's required from a product standpoint. Again, but yeah, we are working on that, and the exchanges that we have listed out will certainly help us as we begin to collect. All right, that is it. Thank you so much for your Q&A questions. Please keep in touch in the Telegram channels. This year will be a lot of fun. We have a lot planned. There's a lot that's going to be going on this year. We're doing it all at the same time. So look forward to things like the white paper exchanges, product releases, redesigns, in terms of the branding and how we look at our website, new staff hires, and things a little bit more ready to rock and roll for bigger plans. So thank you so much, and I look forward to new questions next month.